Johanna Lincoln High School has 136 teachers. Each has a college degree. Each has an area of expertise. And each shows passion and pride while helping their students. But no matter how qualified they are or how hard they try, there's a void that 91% cannot fill. That's because only 9% of teachers at Johanna Lincoln are people of color. Combine that with the fact that over 48% of our students are people of color. And it's obvious, students are searching for teachers who look like them, but they're not finding them. We asked students a simple question. How many teachers of color have you had?
I have had one black teacher.
It might be just one, now that I think about it, actually.
And I've only had one teacher of color.
I've had 0 black teachers.
I've had no black teachers.
I don't think I've ever had a teacher of color.
I think it's only been my Chinese teacher.
0.
The substitute count?
Yeah.
1.
So why does it matter? According to the University of Pittsburgh, students of color perform better academically and are more likely to stay in school, graduate, and pursue higher education when they are exposed to teachers who share their race or ethnicity.
If I'm never seeing someone that looks like me, it subconsciously tells you that that's unattainable for you.
I can't miss what I've never had, so I've only just been like the person who's had white teachers all her life.
There's kind of like a barrier because of like, oh, we don't like walk the same experience.
It makes me more, comfortable being able to relate more.
My white teachers never have the same experiences that I do and never understand racism or microaggressions in the same way that I was forced to growing up.
You feel like you can't do something because you don't see people that are like you. Like, I never thought about being a teacher or doing anything like that because I never saw people that looked like me.
Just not seeing a lot of black teachers has just made me think like, oh, because there aren't enough people that look like me, then I shouldn't do something.
And this is not a new issue. Ever since the Supreme Court ruled in the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision that state-sanctioned segregation of public schools was unconstitutional, it had a negative effect on the teaching profession.
After Brown versus Board, this is when we saw many teachers of color no longer in our profession. This was the turning point. Ever since, we've been trying to play catch up of enticing teachers of color to enter our profession.
When students have teachers who look like them, I think it really helps them understand that they can achieve, that there's a connection, not just with students of color, not just with students who are underrepresented, but for all students.
Which is the goal. But desegregation left a long-lasting impact on the population of teachers of color. And our teachers and administrators felt that impact when they were high school students. So they can relate.
I think I'd have to think long and hard of when I actually had a teacher. Would have been my senior year of high school. So I would say it was a great impact because you go from pre-K all the way to senior year, and the first time you see a teacher who looks like you is your senior year. Instantly I felt a sense of connection to that teacher. I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt valued.
In high school, there were 2 teachers that were for sure like African American that taught. I did not have them at all. When you see people doing what you're doing or want to do or just interact with them on a daily basis, it gives you an image that you can do it.
I feel like teachers of color are important because they're going to give a different voice. If it's very important for students of color to see themselves in education.
English teacher Dr. Danya Thomas recalls having multiple teachers of color throughout her school years. And those teachers helped shape the educational philosophy that she uses in her own classroom.
I honestly can say that those individuals had tremendous impact. I think all young people need to see themselves in their learning process in powerful ways, not just as someone who's just teaching them, but someone that actually embodies the intelligence, the beauty, the confidence, if I had not just had even just that handful. So I can't imagine if I'd had none of them.
So Dr. Thomas has made teaching her self-created African American voice class her passion as an educator, where she serves as a role model for all students, not just students of color.
It's not just about being a person of color, it's about being a conscious person of color. So to me, it's about making sure we educate each other more on topics like this so that we will have more educators, specifically obviously those of color, who can come in here and really continue to fit the criteria and the need.
The end goal of having diverse teachers that represent all students is to have the students feel a stronger connection. And Dr. Thomas's students of color definitely do.
When you have teachers that look like you, talk like you, dress like you feel like you belong. And you don't have to fake who you are because they'll understand.
Senior Eric Brandon sees a future in education because of the impact that Dr. Thomas and his other teachers have had on him.
My teachers have had a big impact on me. My goal is to try to take what I've learned from high school and college even and carry that into life. The amount of African Americans that are in this particular job, whether it's teaching or something else, I want to be the one to make that change.
But only so many students of color can be in Dr. Thomas's classes. And our administrators agree that's not enough. The 2021 study by Brown University found that teachers of color are linked to positive academic, social, emotional, and behavioral student outcomes, and that's credited to culturally responsive teaching. That's why the Gahanna Jefferson Public Schools are committed to hiring persons of color in teaching, administrative positions, and support staff. For example, the Gahanna Lincoln principal and 3 of the 5 assistant principals are black, as are most of the campus supervisors who keep us safe. But there's still work to be done.
We've seen more improvement in the staff hiring outside of teacher positions. We're seeing improvement with administrative hirings, but unfortunately, it's not happening quite fast enough with our teachers. Numbers of people going into education and how many of those are persons of color. This is dire, and we need to talk about it.
This issue extends way beyond Lincoln High School and our school district. The lack of diverse teaching candidates is a problem that spreads across the state of Ohio and the entire country.
It's been an issue that we've been looking at for a long time. We realize that we have a serious problem in Ohio. The teacher population in Ohio just is not reflective of our students. We only have about 5% of our teachers who are people of color, but we have, many times more that, well over a third of our students who are students of color in Ohio. We've recognized for a long time that something needs to be done about it, and that's been one of the priorities for our organization. Students who have diversity of teachers, then that introduces them to different points of view, and that helps everybody just be prepared for life in the real world.
While the percentages at Gahanna Lincoln High School show a current deficiency in the number of teachers of color, our district has developed and implemented the GJPS Equity and Access for All plan. It states, Gahanna Jefferson Public Schools embrace the rich perspectives and experiences that stem from our unique racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, gender, ability, sexual orientation, language, and religious diversity. One specific area of focus in the plan is diversifying our GJPS staff, focusing on the areas of recruitment and retention.
We have 4 pillars to our equity plan, and one of them is focused only on diversifying our hiring and our retention of staff who represent our students. We have increased our recruiting efforts to go into HBCUs and go to their job fairs. We do want to be sure that race is involved in that decision because it is important for our students to see people who look like them in their classrooms. It's just that important to us.
I mean, we don't hide from our diversity, and that brings me great joy every single day. And we work hard at that every hiring season to make sure that we are mindful of our student body and the makeup of our student body and making sure that our staff is a representation of that.
We need to be intentional every single day in our practices of making sure that the people we're putting in your classrooms, in your hallways, in your cafeterias, in your principal positions are representing you as a student body.
Dr. Thomas is optimistic and believes that if the district can reach its goals, the future will be bright.
What we're pouring into these young people now to influence them to want to be educators so they can actually come in here and make the difference for themselves as well. So I think that the more representation we have, the more greatness that will come from it.